All right, for the recording. Welcome back. We are Arya Nagarjuna investigators. It's May 21st, 2025. Let's gather our minds here as we usually do. Please bring your attention to your breath until you hear from me again. Now bring to mind that being who for you is a manifestation of ultimate love, ultimate compassion, ultimate wisdom, and see them there with you. They are gazing at you with their unconditional love for you. Smiling at you with their holy great compassion. Their wisdom radiating from them. That beautiful golden glow encompassing you in its light. And then we hear them say, bring to mind someone you know who's hurting in some way. Feel how much you would like to be able to help them. Recognize that all the worldly ways we try fall short. But they don't have to. How wonderful it will be when we can also help them in some deep and ultimate way, a way through which they will go on to stop their distress forever. Deep down, we know this is possible. recalling the marriage of karma and emptiness, we glimpse how it's possible. We glimpse that it's even inevitable. And so I invite you to grow that longing to help the other into an intention. Even into a determination, if you feel ready. Then turn your mind back to your precious holy being. We know that they know what we need to know, what we need to learn yet, what we need to do yet. To become one who can help this other in this deep and ultimate way. And so we ask them, please teach us that. And they're so happy that we've asked. Of course, they agree. Our gratitude arises. We want to offer them something exquisite. And so we think of the perfect world they are teaching us how to create. We imagine we can hold it in our hands, and we offer it to them, following it with our promise to practice what they teach us, using our refuge prayer to make our promise. Here is the great earth, filled with fragrant incense and covered with the blanket of flowers. The great mountain, 4 lands, wearing the jewel of the sun and the moon. In my mind, I make them the paradise of a Buddha and offer it all to you. By this deed, may every living being experience the pure world. Idam Guru Ratnam Mandalakam Niryatayami. I go for refuge until I am enlightened to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the highest community. Through the merit that I do in sharing this class and the rest, may we reach Buddhahood for the sake of every living being. I go for refuge until I am enlightened to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the highest community. Through the merit that we do in sharing this investigation and the rest, may we reach Buddhahood for the sake of every living being. I go for refuge until I am enlightened to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the highest community. Through the merit that we do in this investigation and the rest, may all beings reach their total awakening for the benefit of every single other. Roxana, the sisters from Guadalajara are looking at a place in Ajijic that
Yes.
would be able to take 10 people for that retreat in January. And it just occurred to me, I said yes to a small group, but you had asked about your people coming, and not that anybody needs to make their decision now, but if there are enough folks from your side that a 10 place isn't going to be big enough, speak up now. Because I think they're putting the finishing touches on that, because I was I forgot about your
Thank you.
phone. So,
Okay, I talked to them a couple of days ago and they just sent me the new place. It's really beautiful. And I had my students come over yesterday and Oscar is very interested. So I sent him the information. I'll let him know that he needs to make up his mind pretty fast.
yeah, okay,
Okay, thank you, Jerlama.
yeah. All right then, here we are. Stalled out there for a moment. All right, Elsie's again at the top of my screen. Will you share the opening with us, please?
Thank you, Nan. Here, I've made a song for you on the very root of the middle way, which I call wisdom. In the language of India, this text is called Prashna Namamula Madhyama Karika. In the language of Tibet, it is known as Uma Sewe Shaklo Japashura. In English, we call it wisdom, a song on the root of the middle way. I bow down to Manjushri, the glorious gentle voice, in his guise as a teenage boy.
And Janet, 1.1, please.
I bow down to the highest of teachers, to the fully enlightened one who teaches us to reach that peace where our fantasies about how things exist are put to a final rest.
Thank you. And Roxana, 1.2.
Thank you, Jerlama. I bow to the one who taught us that things happen in dependence. Nothing ends and nothing begins. Nothing stops, but nothing ever lasts forever. Nothing comes and nothing goes. No two things are different, nor are any two the same.
And Joanna, 1.3.
Thank you. Nothing grows from itself. Nothing grows from something else. Nothing grows from both, and nothing grows without a cause. There is nothing at all that grows at all.
It's like I just need to push a button and stop. Okay, let's go in there. What's he saying about causes and conditions in first chapter?
Well, he says technically the causes disappear and they don't exist.
Right,
And then the condition happens. And then if it stops, it doesn't exist.
right, right. Those
Which is
causes
true.
and yeah, causes and conditions that everything relies upon don't exist. Is that what he really said?
I think he's saying that you just cannot pinpoint exactly when it starts, when it ends. that it's that our whole life, I mean, that our whole mind stream is just causes and conditions from God knows when, or Buddha knows when. And you can't rely on the fact that you're going to be able to say, here's where it starts, here's where it ends. Or this was a cause. Who started the tsunami or started the whatever it is, the baby born in Singapore.
Right. Buddha has said everything exists in dependence on something else. So you go, of course, because everything has causes, right? Worldly causes. Of course, everything depends. Of course, you can't find the actual start. Like, none of that is significant, really, right? We all know that. So what's Nagarjuna really pointing out when he goes through in the first chapter, all the different kinds of worldly causes? And he points out that if you check to see how or when that kind of worldly cause could bring about its worldly effect, you can't actually find a connection between the cause and the result. Those causes can't have natures of being causes, as Janet said. Isn't he contradicting what Buddha said?
I once said to my Ney Lama, well, then you don't exist. And he said, I can assure you that I exist, but he exists coming from my own side. He doesn't exist. Like to someone else, he is not a Ney Lama. To me, he is. To someone else, he's just a stupid guy that talks about how things come from your own side and they just laugh at him.
Yeah,
But for me, he's trying to teach me something.
exactly. Exactly. But now let's investigate right from there. So everybody put themselves in Janet's position, right? She's seeing that this one person, she's seeing that for her, he's her Ney Lama, somebody special, there to teach her. For other people, right, everyone has their own take on what he is. So now, that I'm thinking Lama Christie in front of me. And at some level, as we hear Janet's wise words, everybody sees them differently. I'm thinking that about Lama Christie. Is there a part of my mind that is still saying, and there is a her that's there that everybody sees differently? Right. That's understanding karma and emptiness from some level of the three lower schools. Can you feel it? There's
The
something
her,
there.
the
There's
her
a
that
functioning thing there.
the her
That's
that exists is something empty. She's something empty, and that's why we all see her differently.
exactly. Exactly. Nagarjuna is wanting us to push that further. And
Like,
that's why he keeps taking us through more and more detailed investigations of what do we believe is there at each of these different chapters. Right? So in the first one, the thing we believe is there is a cause that's like a woman that we all call Lama Christie, but each of us experiences in a different way, but is there to receive our label, is there first to receive our label. A cause that creates a result. And he points out, you can't find where that happens. So those causes don't have natures. He doesn't say they don't have natures of their own, because just to say those words implies that there is a thing there that has no nature of its own. So he doesn't say that. Buddha doesn't say that. We say that when it feels too scary, because when we hear nothing has any nature, there's a part of our mind that goes, oh, so it doesn't exist at all. And Janet's Ne Lama assures her that he exists. He does exist and has no nature, because a non-existing thing doesn't have any nature either, but only because it doesn't exist. An existing thing has no nature because it exists, right? So Arya Nagarjuna is helping us to push ourselves from our understanding of, yes, things are unique to me, but the things that are there are unique to me. And he wants to push us to recognize that, no, there's not a thing that's there that's unique to me. There is the unique to me thing that's there. Oh, does that give a different connotation to say it in that different way? Janet's seeds ripen and she has a Ne Lama. His seeds ripen and he has whatever he has. I have no idea. Somebody else's seeds ripen and that man is something else for somebody else. And the layers get laid on. So same for causes of things, worldly causes of things happen because our seeds ripen to make them happen. It is valid that it takes turning a key in an ignition to start a car, because karmically, that's the ripening of cause and effect, worldly cause and effect. Worldly cause and effects do happen. They do exist, but they are not the real cause, because they have no nature of being the cause. How do we know that? Because they don't always work. Because until the result happens, you can't call it a cause, right? All the reasonings, but we want to get to that bottom of it. There can be things called worldly cause and effects because they have no nature of being a cause of anything. So our seeds can ripen anything as a cause for anything else, technically. Right? You could eat a banana and your car could start. It's like, no, that never happens. Only because karmically we haven't created it to happen. And who cares, right? Let's create things that are important rather than starting cars by eating bananas. So why are we going there? Because we're investigators, right? We want to push the envelope in our own understanding of Nagarjuna's wisdom. Like, I know my own mind says, let's get to the end of this text and get on to something else. But there's really no end to this text until the goodness that we make by trying to understand it ripens as our own direct experience of ultimate reality. There, we have more to learn from this text, right? It has more it has more messages for us, right? We understand the words differently every time we discuss it together, and then we go back and we look at it again. New seeds. So we can just keep going deeper and deeper, and we'll never get off the first opening lines because they hold all of it that he's going to talk about. So after the first chapter, that starts our critique. The one that insists that there is a woman there that everybody sees differently, even the bugs, right? And the creatures and the Buddhas, everybody sees her differently, but she's there to be seen differently. Does Nagarjuna say, no, she's not there at all? No. But what's there? Who's there? Nothing until somebody's karma ripens her there. And of course, she has her own karma ripening her there. But that's not what we rely on. So in Janet's Nelam, it says, I assure you I exist. That's a I that Janet cannot experience until Janet experiences Janet as omniscient. Then Janet can experience that other directly. So Nagarjuna has bowed down to Lord Buddha, who says everything exists in dependence. And when we perceive our world in that way, we will be at peace. And then goes on to say, everything exists in dependence, but nothing comes from itself. Nothing comes from anything else. Nothing comes from both. Nothing comes without a cause, and nothing at all grows at all. It's like, isn't that contradictory? If everything depends on something else, but then what's he saying? Yeah, and we know that when he says everything exists in dependence, he means independence upon the karmic imprints that we make by way of what we think, say, and do towards other. Why didn't he say that? Because then the worldly causes only work as worldly causes if our behavior is such that we use worldly causes to help somebody else. Then worldly causes can work. All right, so the first chapter. Yes, Roxana.
No, I just want to share. Yesterday, I was sitting among people that were coming into the house, and I just was realizing, these people that I haven't met before, they're in my house and they are coming from me, each one of them.
Yeah,
It was a beautiful feeling, to be honest,
nice.
because I thought, when did I create them? Yeah,
Right.
when did I study with them in the past that they're back here? It was beautiful.
Nice.
Yeah.
So Nagarjuna says, look, those causes and conditions that we think Buddha is saying everything depends upon, they have no natures of being causes. They can't be causes. They can't be the causes the way we think. And then what does our Kachik say? No, Nagarjuna. I do things. And that gets us to chapter 2, which is that chapter on going and coming. Do you remember? Which is a pretty subtle way to address whether or not we do things in the way that we think we do. Going and coming, coming and going. We have to move to do anything, don't we? And then we investigated whether or not we can actually ever get up out of bed and go to the bathroom. It's like I do it very regularly, every night. Definitely I'm doing it. But if you pin down what's happening, wow, it's magic. Really. So no goer, no going, no gone, no going back, says second chapter. None of that has any nature. What does our Kachik say? I do things. That's what mine says. Don't tell me I don't get out of bed and go to the toilet at 2 a.m. I do. Just like Jonathan Ne Lama says, I assure you I exist. I assure you I do things. Nagarjuna, don't tell me I don't. Did he tell me I didn't? No. I'm misunderstanding. My Kachik is misunderstanding. Wait, let me get this other book. Hang on. I can't find what I'm looking for. Here it is. In Kempo Tsultrim's book, in the back, his appendix, he picks out 1 or 2 chapters from each, 1 or 2 verses from each chapter that takes the essence of that chapter. So for him, the verse that is chapter 2 in a nutshell says, on the path that has been traveled, there's no moving. On the path that has not been traveled, there is no moving either. And in some other place besides the path that has been traveled and the path that has not, motions are not perceptible in any way at all. So our verses was about the going, the goer going or not. It's addressing our Kachik saying, I do make things happen. Worldly causes do work because I get out of bed and I go to the bathroom and I go back to bed. So he says, well, investigate that and you'll find that it can't be happening in the way that we think because I can't find the moment my foot hits the floor. It feels so unuseful in life. What does our Kachik say in response to chapter 2? No, Nagarjuna. I do so. I'm aware of myself going. Come on, I do so exist. We keep saying, no, no, no. No natures can't be true. As we go through each of the different chapters, he's helping us look at all the different ways that we hold that we have a nature of our own. It starts with the outer parts of us. Our heaps, our powers, our elements. It goes the other way around. The powers, the heaps, the elements. Because our Kachik keeps saying, no, 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 there is a solid me. And then finally, somewhere along the line, Nagarjuna subtly helps us look at our own me, right? From my experience to my more personal experience to the me itself. He doesn't have a chapter, let's investigate me. But the way he moves it from chapter to chapter, he's making us do that, whether we're aware of it or not. So chapter 3, wait, I do so come and go. I do so do things because I see things, hear things, smell things. That's doing stuff. You can't say I don't do that. Nagarjuna did not say we didn't do that. He says that we are doing has no nature, so we can do that. But we get stalled at the misinterpretation of the words. So he goes, okay, let's look at those powers through which we believe we are doing things. Seeing, hearing, smelling, tasting, touching. Remember, we did that. Can't be happening the way we believe. Light onto the retina that shines pixels onto the back of our brain, that some awareness goes, oh, boat, right? Oh, horse. Oh, Nelama. Oh, that can't be, it can't be working that way. And his bottom line was, because if it could, the eyeball should see itself, and it doesn't. That's a hard proof. It's the ramification of self-existent seeing that proves it can't be self-existent seeing. It has to depend on some other factor. Then we go, yeah, but I do so have my eye consciousness through which I see forms. And he goes, okay, let's look at the forms you think you see. When does it become a form, a physical form? Before you see it or after you see it? What makes it a physical form? By seeing it? Could you see a physical form without seeing a physical form? No, that's absurd. But I could feel a physical form without seeing a physical form, but it would be a physical form that I'm feeling, not seeing. The form depends on the seeing of it, doesn't it? No, it depends on the plastic from the factory. Yeah, but even that depends upon the knowing of it. If we didn't know pens came from pen factories, would they? Check your mind. If we didn't know pens came from pen factories, would they? What is your answer? Yes, they came from pen factories when I was a little kid, before I was taught they came from pen factories. But do you see I'm thinking wrongly? For me, the little kid that didn't know anything about pen factories, pens did not come from pen factories. They came from stores, right? Or they came from the little cup, right, that mom kept them in. Are you with me? Elsie, your hand's up. I'm sorry.
I'm I'm looking at it like this way, like we were talking about the sense factors and all. There are people who don't have eyes, or their eyes are speckless. They cannot see, right? But they still do know other ways. So it means that uh, the eyes are not the one just allowing them to see, right? So what makes them see would be something else.
Oh,
Yeah.
seeds
And
ripening in their mind.
and there are times also that we see certain things, but we know nothing about.
Right.
So hence, I would say that's not ripened yet for us to know what it is.
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah, thank goodness we know the punchline. But our task isn't to just jump to the punchline and plow through the chapters. Our task is to see if we can derive the punchline as a ramification of each of his chapter conclusions. And if we hear his chapter conclusions, there's no nature to causes and conditions, and we just go, nah, right? Then we've missed an opportunity. If we go, wait a minute, Buddha said everything is dependent, but the causes and conditions we think things depend upon can't do what we think they do, then what dependence is Buddha talking about? Right? We would be able to derive karma and emptiness out of this text, I believe. So we're wanting to use it to show ourselves our own walls, right, that are blocking us from the deep aha of the direct experience of the empty nature of oneself, of our me. Each one's me is what we're trying to get to. And each chapter has a clue as to what's stopping us from living in that identity of empty me, dependently originated me and nothing but. Okay. So chapter 4, with the investigation of the parts to a person, meaning our heaps. Then Arkachik said, yeah, but Buddha said my form is made of elements. There are elements that are the basic building blocks of my heap of form, Buddha said so. And so we investigate the elements that make up our heap of form by way of investigating the element space, the hardest one, if you remember. Yes, Janet?
I did look up chapter 23 and 24. That teacher said that for him it was important. And I don't know if it really was, but it's false concepts, which is ignorance,
Yeah,
the Four Noble Truths.
yeah.
So I think that, you know, yeah, we could keep going, but it's just gonna get us deeper into this. Well, the Buddha taught this. So how could you say, it's gonna go deeper. I mean, it's gonna go to something that is the first thing he taught, which is the Four Noble Truths.
I know, isn't that great? It's so ironic. If when we heard the four Arya truths the first time we really got it, we wouldn't have to be doing any of this, right? Or we'd be doing it just for the benefit of somebody else, right? Who didn't get them the first time we heard. That's a really cool point that you bring up, that it brings us right back around to the beginning, as it should. Mm. So we're using each chapter to find where we are still holding so tenaciously to some belief about our existence that has to have its own nature in order to exist from our ignorant perspective. And if we can get a hold of that and check on it to see if it can really function the way we believe it's functioning and come to the conclusion that it can't. Each time we do that, it's a little window into our own actual existence, the way we exist right now. So where was it in class that I was talking about if our baseline belief in ourselves is I am a human being who's suffering, then we are stuck as a being who will be suffering forever. Because that implies by the very words that I have some nature of my own. And that means it can't be changed. If our baseline belief about our me is that I am a blank screen, available to be anything for anybody at any moment, including myself. And right now, my experience of me is suffering human being and I can't stop it. Then I can stop it. Not in the moment yet, but I can be living in this process of experience is results and interactions with experiences creates the causes. So can you feel the difference? Thinking of yourself as, no, this me and my body, my awareness in my body is me and I'm suffering and I'm real. Versus my bottom line identity is this changing process. The changing process is malleable. The me is not. So again, we can use Nagarjuna's investigation to chip away at this tenacious belief that my me is a suffering being, that I'm trying to transform into ultimately wise, ultimately loving. And no wonder it's so hard, because I'm trying to work with dry cement when I believe that my me has its own nature as a suffering being. You see, so like deep down, what do we hold ourselves to be? Empty or real? Janet, what did you say? Deep
I mean,
down, what do you hold yourself to be?
this is my problem because I take it real. And if I looked at
Mine too.
the ignorant people I work with, if with emptiness, then it could go either way. They could be ignorant or not ignorant, and it won't matter because it's coming from my own side. But no, I want to blame them and say that they're just really stupid. And so I'm saying it's real. Their stupidity is real. And then I
Yes,
have a problem. And then you
right.
were suggesting to look at it with emptiness, to try to, or maybe it was Mike, I don't know. Let's try something different, right?
Let's try something
But
different.
I really want to say they're stupid. I really don't want to say it's coming from my side.
I know. Who wants to admit that, right? I was having that conversation with myself yesterday. I don't want to admit that it's all my fault. I don't want to admit that I made this big mistake, I don't want to admit that. But that's worth investigating too. I have a close friend. She laughs about her family. She says she has this crazy dysfunctional family. And when there's any kind of upset within the family or outside the family, she says, my family has to sit down together and find who to blame. And once you can find who to blame, then you can go about solving the problem. But you have to find who to point the finger at, you know? And she laughs about it, but we all do that, right? If we can find the one to blame, you know, it's for sure not going to be this one, right? It's going to be out there somewhere. Then we have something we can work with. And it's like Nagarjuna would be going, yeah.
I live with Doug, and there's clues there. He'll say, you talk about this a lot. And the clue is if you talk about it a lot, it's probably a karmic seed. Because if you just let it go and it was empty, then you wouldn't talk about it a lot. But I'm
right.
constantly complaining about work. Constantly.
Good for you for laughing at yourself.
But here's where it comes the dual mind, right, dear Lemma?
Dual in what way?
Well, I mean, our seventh consciousness, the one that the ego holds on to, that the me and the I, and
Right. Right.
it's
Right.
where our
Right.
staying seats usually
Right.
are, and
Exactly.
we continue perpetrating.
Right. Because when that me hears there's no such that me, its reaction is there's no me at all. And that should be terrifying. But that's a misreaction. Yeah, right. An ignorant reaction to glimpsing truth. Driven by the actual ignorance, right? It's as if our ignorance has a mind of its own. And when it's getting threatened, you know, it says, I do so exist. It's not going to go down without a fight for some reason.
Right. And
But
what
that doesn't have to be either.
and what I understand by studying a little bit further from Word's book is that you first cleanse your foundation consciousness, and then after you've cleansed your foundation consciousness, you may clear away your seventh consciousness.
And yet it takes a glimpse into the error of the seventh consciousness in order to really clear away the foundation consciousness. Because without understanding emptiness, all
Right.
the four
Yes.
powers or ripening that we do is just burning off angry bosses. It's not burning off ignorance.
Right. Right. So that's where the merit of karma and emptiness jumps in, right?
Exactly.
Yes.
Exactly. It takes both.
Thank you, dear Lemma. Yes.
Yeah. On the other hand, I don't believe that we're not burning off or that we're not damaging our ignorance. Wait, let me say this again. When we have the direct experience of ultimate reality, that's when we finally can no longer replant a full-on ignorance, a seed with full-on ignorance. Until then, we are still replanting ignorance. For a long time, I thought, well, then really, I'm just working on creating more ignorant goodness with a imposed wisdom, right? Choosing a different kind of kindness to do, not a different kind. choosing kindness to do because of my belief in emptiness, but I'm still just replanting full on ignorance. And the more I study and share and study and share, I don't believe that that's true. I think that we are already chipping away at our ignorance as we study, as we try those few times, I want to do this or say this and I don't because, something is triggered. Because of karma and emptiness, I won't say that. Because of karma and emptiness, I will go do this, even though I don't want to, for instance. I think each time we do that, our ignorance loses a little bit of power. Not like the way it loses power from the direct perception, but every time we choose, right, to respond in a different way based on our right spiritual growth, I think we are already chipping away at our belief in self-existence. And the reason I think that is because as we study, our understanding grows a little bit. And if our understanding is growing a little bit, our ignorance must be losing some power. So I don't know, once I came to that conclusion, it helped me have more patience with myself, feel a little bit more like, well, I am making progress. To recognize that, day by day, we are chipping away at this simply because we're trying, even though we fail most of the time. Our effort to try is based on a growing wisdom, and that's helping, right? So I hope that's encouraging. Yes, Janet?
Well, I mean, it's not exactly like we've got great examples in our society. My own Ne Lama, Michael, he's a landlord. He's got tenants. And like I complained to Doug about my coworkers. Well, Mike complains to me about his dirty tenants.
Why would you see him complain about his
I
tenant?
know. And then I asked him, "You're a genius and you see all this ignorance." And he says, "That's right." I don't know what he means by that. Is it because I'm just seeing him with his ignorance? But he says he does see ignorance.
A Buddha sees ignorance in me, right? Until I'm Buddha, I can't see anybody else's ignorance if they have it. So if I see them behaving in an apparently ignorant way, whose ignorance is it? Mine.
Well, and technically it's both neither,
Yes,
because there's the thing that you said yesterday. Well, you don't know because you're not omniscient that everyone's not acting to help you in your very best interest. You have
right,
no idea, but that is possible. And I'm thinking, yeah, well, unicorns can exist too. Yeah, everyone's acting in my own interest, but we just don't know.
right, right. So if how we respond to others is how we plant our seeds, and those seeds become our future experience, how would we want to choose to see beings so that we would be more likely to interact with them in a way that plants seeds to make it more likely for our projection of them to be really enlightened beings helping us instead of unicorn enlightened beings helping us? Is there a difference?
I mean, I have a hard time dealing with reality, so I think I don't know. But
Yeah,
if someone's really trying to help me and I won't receive it, when I try to help someone, then they won't receive it.
right,
And then I have to resort to which is what David said too, with the good of awe, that your Lama, that just being the bump on the log from Shantideva. And then I don't say something when it has to be said negatively if it'll help someone. I just don't say anything at all.
Mhm.
And then a week later, they'll ask me about it. But by then, it's too late. So I don't know. I feel like I've tried this different ways. I'm old enough now. I've tried it different ways. And
Yeah,
it goes back to working on myself. I can't change. That's what you're trying to tell Elsie. Can you really change that other person?
right.
And sometimes you can, sometimes you can't. But when it's a clear no, you can't change that person, then you can only then the energy has to come to working on yourself and changing
Right.
yourself. And then you become this inspirational person that you can show it can be done, but I'm nowhere near that. So, but that's what I see is that
Yeah.
there are people that there are situations, there are work situations, there's just things where even when you are a bump on a log and you don't say anything, you're still hurting people because it needed to be said. And then they have to come to you when it's too late and it's already done and you were trying to stop it before it happened. But then they were saying it wasn't a big deal, it wasn't critical, and why was I saying anything? So
No, you're
I have to
damned if
work
you
on
do and damned if you don't in
yeah.
this world of samsara. And so the intention behind, if the intention behind being a bump on a log was to not hurt anybody, and in that way to help, then that's a good seed. Even if it seems like later, having been a bump on a log was not the right thing to do. At the time it was. And then this current ripening of, you should have said something back then, that's a different seed, right? And a different issue to address. That then moving forward, next time bump on a log opportunity comes up, you just think, is bump on a log really the best way to not hurt and to help? You may still choose yes. Each event is another opportunity to choose the response. And we're learning to do that. Yeah. Hard.
At the end, Janet, it's the interaction, the quality of the interaction, what counts.
Yeah, it does.
Well, I've been told I'm contentious because I didn't want to see my resident wincing in pain. I disagreed. I said, I think she's wrong. Once I see someone wincing in pain and I say something and it's being contentious, I think that person is wrong. That's just me. It's my opinion.
Right. Right. And you being contentious is them and their opinion, and you don't have to take that on and say, yes, I am, or no, I'm not, your opinion.
Well, it
And
goes
you
back to the pissing war. I'm right, you're wrong. No, you're right, and
exactly.
I'm wrong. And it's this Mexican standoff, and I'm just not going to do it.
Good. Yeah, don't do it. And then don't initiate it either.
No touching, no provoking.
No provoking.
That's what my Vajrapani said. No touching, no provoking.
Good. Good. Let's take a break. Yay. All right, let's plug along. So I do so have a heap of form because Buddha said the elements exist and the elements make up my heap of form. So I do so exist. Arya Nagarjuna, he says, let's check. How do you know you have your elements? Elements are defined by their qualities. And how do they get their defining qualities? Who establishes the heat of our body to be the heat of our body? Oh, my thyroid function, my pancreas function. Who decides that? Who decides that? Who decides that? Who establishes it? None of those elements have natures of their own. They can't. Because if they did, they couldn't do what elements do, which is shift and adjust according to the other element. If fire didn't have the nature of being fire, it couldn't increase or decrease according to the level of water. Like, I don't know, my deep sense is if it, of course, as fire, it can adjust. If you pour water on fire, it goes out. It adjusts. But, right, Nagarjuna is saying if you think it through and try to really pinpoint what is it about that, where does that element fire get its quality of being metabolism in the body? Where does the element fire get its quality fire? If you didn't know fire, would you have fire in your body? Would you have metabolism in your body if you didn't know fire? It's a hard question, right? Yes, of course. My metabolism works whether I know I have a thyroid or not. I had the fire element before I ever heard of my body made up of elements. And that means they had to have had some nature of their own to be there without my knowing them. But could they really have been there without my knowing them? Not for me. You know, when I was a 1-year-old and I didn't know anything about my thyroid in that lifetime, did my me have a thyroid? No. Did my mother's baby have a thyroid? Yes. But did me have a thyroid? No. Until I learned about it. Do you see? Old worldview says, of course I had a thyroid because I had a human body and I didn't have to know about it. Middle way worldview would say, no, you didn't have a thyroid at that moment, in those times, until you learned about it. Because you didn't have the karmic seeds for it. Do you see how hard it is? It's like, no. Investigation of the element. We follow along. Okay, I see that those elements depend on me in somehow. But then what does our Kachik say? No, Nagarjuna, I don't care what you say about all that. I have desire. I do so exist. Like every time we hit the chapter, deep down, we feel like Nagarjuna is saying, this has no nature, and so therefore I don't exist. I don't really exist, would be how we would say the word. And so chapter 6, we go from talking about the elements of our heaps, especially the heap of form, to the me and my desire. Right? Chapter 6 was desire and the one who desires. And Nagarjuna's investigation is, okay, which comes first? If there is a desirer and a something that is desired as two separate things, how do you establish, right? How and when they make contact? Doesn't one have to be there first for the other one? To be the desirer, doesn't there have to be something to be desired? But doesn't the something to be desired depend on the desirer? Which comes first? Can you be a desirer with nothing that you desire? No. So the thing desired has to come first, and then it triggers the desire. But no, that can't be. Because what if I had no desire at all? Then that thing that couldn't trigger desire, so it couldn't be a thing. that triggers desire without my desire. What's really happening? What's the punchline? It all comes from seeds. So no, desire and desired have no nature, which to Nagarjuna means, which is why it can happen. But to Arkachik means, no, doesn't happen at all, can't happen. When I have desire for something, it's all a big dream. It's not really happening. Nothing really matters. Oops. So Arkachik goes, no, no. No, no. I do so exist because I make things happen. All right, so it's a little different than what we had before. I do so exist because I do things, and we went into going, go, or gone. This is, I do so exist because I make things happen. Right? I have some kind of power, and I must exist to be able to be a produced thing that produces things. I do so exist. Did Nagarjuna ever say we don't exist? No. He's saying we have no nature. Well, how can a thing with no nature exist? If that doesn't seem absurd to even ask that, we still have investigating to do. So Nagarjuna says, all right, let's check out produced things. Produced things have the quality. We establish a produced thing by way of seeing something start, stay, and stop. That's how we recognize something as a produced thing. So then he says, let's investigate whether things start, stay, stop. And let's start with their start. I imagine Nagarjuna was laughing through this whole chapter. Let's start with the start of produced things, and let's look at to see if we can establish when the start starts. Do you remember that? And does the start at the beginning of the start? Or is the start not actually happened until the start is done? Or is it partway through the starting? It's just so fun to try, right? To say the words, it sounds like Dr. Seuss. So in the end, it's clear that's the starting, staying, and stopping that establishes something as a functioning thing, a produced thing, cannot actually be found in our experience. And yet, things function. So, produced things have no natures. So they can function. Right? Thinks Nagarjuna, duh. But to the ignorant me, what do you mean functioning things have no nature? When I take the key, put it in the ignition and turn it, the car starts. I started, stayed, and produced, ended the starting of the car. I did that. Nagarjuna says, yeah, of course, because you have no nature of doing it, you did it. To him, it's obvious. To me, it's like, let me go through it again. Because none of that has any nature, it can happen. If it had nature of its own anywhere along the way, it would be impossible. Not just that it can't happen, that I would stick the key in the car and sometimes it wouldn't start. It would be there's no such thing as a key. There's no such thing as my hand. There's no such thing, right? Because if they have their own natures, then they're impossible. And I hear myself say that, and it's like, no, they're not impossible. They're real if they have their own natures. Right? Nagarjuna hitting his head against the brick wall to hear me say that, because to have your own nature is to not be real and not be real, but to not exist at all. There's no such thing as anything with its own nature, not even your Buddha you. Especially not our Buddha being does not have its own nature. And if we're thinking, when I finally become Buddha, I will have the nature of being Buddha, we aren't ever going to reach it. Because there's no such Buddha me as the one that finally has its own nature of being Buddha me. Right? Yes, Roxana.
Okay, we're talking about real and unreal. And I have it clear in my mind, and I won't have any misconceptions. Can you please address one more time? What do you mean by real and unreal, please, dear Lama?
Okay. So from ignorance, real means what we experience in the moment is real. And unreal would be a hallucination. We think I see a stork out in my front yard, but then I look again and oh no, it's just a shadow, right? Or a hallucination. I don't know, I've never done drugs, but you take LSD and you see all those lights. Hallucination. Or like a dream. Yeah, anything can happen in a dream. So unreal would be those things that we're having an experience, but then the experience turns out to have been wrong in some way. Real.
Okay, thank you, dear Lama.
But when you have wisdom, real means seed ripening. So when we actually perceive the ficus tree as seeds ripening, ficus tree, that ficus tree is real. My pen, where'd my pen go? The pen, karmic ripening pen, is real. Do you see? So even the word real doesn't have its own meaning because it depends on, right? Depends on the level of wisdom. Seed ripening pens are real. Self-existent pens are not. To an ignorant mind, the pen I experience is real, but it's not. Because the pen I experience, I think, has its identity in it, and there's no such thing. The pen I experience coming from my seeds is real. Because it has no nature of its own, it's real. The pen I think is there from its own side is not real. Which one do I use to write with? The seed ripening real pen, but I don't know it, which is how I perpetuate the mistake. I'm planting seeds by thinking I'm writing with the self-existent pen. a pen that's existing independent of my seeds of writing for it.
In the book that Janet shared a couple of days ago, there's a chart. It's in page 58, and it talks about agents and objects. Agents as in subject, and it plays 9 roles, different roles, in how it's real. I mean, when it says real agent, real object, and then it goes unreal agent, unreal object, real and unreal agent, and really an unreal object. So in my mind, thank you for the explanation. That means that I need to play it in a role of ignorance and wisdom
Right.
to
Right.
have a more clear idea
Yes.
of what somebody's experiencing, right?
Right.
Okay, thank
Okay.
you.
Would you like to work that out and give us a presentation on it?
Me, dear Lama?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll do my best. If
You
Janet
want to try?
helps. Yeah, I can try it, yes.
To help us understand agents and actions from those two directions, real ignorantly, which isn't real, and real wisely, which would be real. That would be really fascinating. You have time?
I can do my best.
Do you want to do it for next week, or you want 2 weeks to work on that?
Oh, I can have 2 weeks, please.
Okay.
So I can have the confidence that I'm gonna be studying a little bit more and making a PowerPoint as well.
Yeah. It's not too much with what you have all else going on.
It
Is it?
will help me. It will help me. I can use it further on with my group.
Okay.
You
I'm
know what
putting-
I'm doing too? I'm teaching a doctor who requested for me to teach English, but he wants something very specific. He wants Dharma included in it.
Cool.
So I'm doing an online teaching, an hour and a half a day too. So
Well, maybe this is too much. Am I asking too much?
don't worry. No,
Yeah.
don't worry. I'll do my best. I'll do my best. Okay? Just give me time.
Okay. I'm making a note on my phone or else I'll forget. Okay, so from chapter 7, what? I don't produce things. I don't make things happen. I do so. I am the agent who acts. Chapter 8. And Nagarjuna goes through it again. When is it exactly that you become the car starter? The moment you think about it? No. The moment you put the key in the car? No. There must be a moment, that you turn the key and the car catches. That's the moment I become the car starter. Yeah, but what moment was that actually? Well, that moment. Yeah, but can't you break that down into the beginning, middle, and end of that moment, like we did in chapter 7? And it's like, yeah, but if you're saying that I'm never can find the moment I become the car starter, I can't ever start my car. If there's no agent who does the action, actions can never happen. And if there's no action that defines the agent as the actor, nothing can ever happen, Nagarjuna. It's ridiculous to say none of that ever happens. Nagarjuna is not saying none of it ever happens. He's saying it all happens with no nature of being agent, no nature of being act, no nature of action. But I feel my own mind going, what's the point of saying no natures? It still works. What would he say? Yeah, but it doesn't work 100% of the time, so you can't rely on it. Yeah, but most of the time. I'm fooling myself to be so complacent about trusting my car will start every time I turn the key. I'm living in my ignorance. I'm using up the goodness that makes car starts every time I start the car without going, miracle. I did some kind of kindness to help somebody start something, taking it for granted. Being an agent who does an action as if I had some kind of power to do it. Agents have no natures. Cause agents' actions have no natures. Yes, Janet.
Sometimes I think about this class when I'm not in the class,
Good
and
for
my
you.
client, I have an elderly couple I take care of, and he loves his car, and his son loves his cars. His sons have Teslas, and he has a electric vehicle. And he said, you know, the dinosaurs had these big, beautiful bodies and small brains, and now we have these cars, and they're these beautiful bodies with small brains. And I thought about that. And I was like, oh, the karma of America. We had like this world, this planet with lots of dinosaurs. And now we're kind of reliving that in some weird way. But if you go back, then where did that come from? What was before the dinosaurs?
Yeah,
And you don't know really.
good. Oh, fun.
I don't know about this agents and actions and, causes because our scientific world teaches that there are causes to things and we learn about that.
Yeah,
But Mike is a scientist and I asked him about that and he said, "Well, science teaches you what you need to know to understand, and if you don't understand it, it probably won't get discovered till later. But it's not that it's untrue, it's that they teach you what you can to understand. And because we're not omniscient, this is what we understand about our situation, the cause and effect, the causes of things.
right.
It's not that it's untrue, it's just that it's not the detailed whole truth. And if you want to teach something to people so that they can all understand it, and there are a lot of us, how do you get us to all understand it? You teach it like this, that there's a cause that causes the car to start. And
Right.
there's a cause. You're unlocking teachings to us because there was a line of people. So there's that too. I don't know. That's as far as I can get
Yeah,
with
yeah,
limited omniscience. And I
yeah,
accept that. I accept that that's all I can understand.
for now. Yeah. Yes, Roxana.
I don't know if you are all aware that Geshe is about to be teaching this June a new program that's called Leaders of the Stratosphere.
Haven't heard of that.
You heard of it, right, Janet? You were there.
Oh,
I'm not the market for that. I know I used to be in these business classes, and this reeks of that reaching to a higher level person, like a higher, more expensive clientele.
yeah.
And my parents are in that clientele. They would donate $2 million to build a church. But I guess in some ways I am because I'm their daughter. But yes, I have listened to this product that they're launching.
So it's, well, just relating to what Janet said about the dinosaur and the Tesla, there are these people who are willing to pay very expensive courses for a period of 2 years to build the new campus in Sedona for this business university.
Oh,
So what pops into my mind is a vision that somebody has to be able to build something for the future, for future generations. So he's thinking ahead in so many ways, and how to be bringing the wisdom together from west and east, and where they meet is going to be in Sedona and in Tokyo. So it's a very interesting project for
I-
them.
I felt like they're doing it for us right now. It's not just for the future.
Right.
That having a school is for us. Even the people that can't afford it, it's for us right now so that we can have a proper school that we can gather and meet at and have a really high quality education, very clear education. Get corrections right away with our education.
To be honest, I'm thinking of my grandkids. When I listen to these new programs and I'm translating, I'm just dedicating the seats for them to be there in the coming years. So
Yay,
it's something to look forward to.
yay. So what is Nagarjuna saying about agents and actions? Is he saying that I really am not a car starter when I start my car? Or is he saying something else is going on?
I mean, you're unlocking teachings for us in a way I wouldn't have if I just read the book on my own. There is something else going on. There's past seeds, this sense of initiation and passing teachings on from one to another, whether it's genetic or karmic or both, probably both. And I don't know, we didn't leave. We didn't break this cycle before. Why didn't we break this cycle before?
Yeah.
It's harder. The longer we let it go on, it's harder to break it. And here we are. I don't know what to say.
It is valid experience, me putting key, turning, car starting, valid experience. It is happening. There has to be gas, there has to be batteries, there has to be all this stuff in the car, there has to be the key, there has to be the me. There has to be my need to get in the car and start it. There has to be the desire, there has to be. So what is it that's the real cause? Which one of those? Well, all of them together. Well, right? It's like at every level. It's like, well, what do you mean? Well, what do you mean? Well, what do you mean? He's not saying the experience is not a valid experience. Included in the valid experience is our belief in what caused the valid experience, plus is all those things that went into the valid experience of starting the car. What's missing is the karmic seed. And it just seems so theoretical to say what's missing is the karmic seed amongst all of those explanations for what starts the car. But karmic seed is missing because it's not actually inside all of those different ones. It's what all of those different ones are inside. So no wonder we can't see the karmic seeds. They're bigger than we are. And our constant experience is this shape shift of these karmic seeds, whether it's one great big one with lots of little pieces or it's billions of tiny ones, shifting, shifting, shifting. They're bigger than we are, which is why we can't be aware. Like, is the fish aware it's swimming in the ocean? No, that's its reality. Our reality is karmic seeds ripening, 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 ripening. Subject-object interaction between and this constant shape shift driven by this process that we call a karmic seed made by an imprint, made by my awareness of what I think, do, and say, causes somehow reaches a threshold to come into manifestation of me experiencing that. I'm thinking we're going to get to a chapter where Nagarjuna addresses that and says, if you think that process has some reality of its own, you still have it wrong. But we start there. The punchline, karmic seeds ripening, is how agents make actions happen. And so they do happen. We got to chapter 9. Ta-da! Let's run to the end of chapter 9 and see what it's called. Who might have been there before? So he said, agents, actions, no natures. Kachik goes, no, me, the agent. I have to be there in order to do the action. I do have to have my own nature in order to serve as the karmic seed doer of that action. I do so have to be there with my own nature. Does our Kachik say self-existent, independent of any other factor? No, of course not. We know we're dependent on all kinds of things. But is included in those all kinds of things the results of my own past behavior? Yeah, hopefully you're all going, yes, 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 that is included. But I have to admit, I have to impose that one. It's not yet automatic. The way all the others are automatic. So in chapter 9, Nagarjuna addresses this insistence that I am so there. In response to our response to chapter 8, where we heard me, the agent, had no nature. And we thought, you're saying I don't exist at all? Of course we're going to come out. I do so. And he goes, okay, let's see. Are you there before you do the action? What does your mind say? Of course you're there before you start the car. You have to pick up the keys. You have to go out there. You're there already. Are you the car starter before you are the car starter? No, right? He goes, come on. The you that you think is there before is a different you than the one that was there before you started the car. The one that's there before you started the car is not the one that starts the car. Don't say there's a connection between those two, because there can't be. Doesn't that feel absurd? Of course there's a connection between those two. But which one's the real you? Right. I had to be there before I started the car in order to start the car. We said. He says, the one you think was there before you started the car that then went on to start the car, that one was not there. The one ripening me is there. The ripening me is there. The ripening me starting car is now there. But that's a different me. Not a different me, Sarani than Stephanie than Bob, but a different Sarani every moment. Well, then, who makes the karma? If the Sarani at the moment of doing the deed is the one that imprints the seed, and that Sarani is gone with the seed, how come it's true that I'm the only one who can make karma for me, when the me is never the same 2 moments in a row? How can I make karma if the me is different, different, different? He's going to go there later. Right now, he's wanting us to zero in on the me that we believe is the same moment to moment. And just when we apply logic, it's like, I'm never the same moment by moment. And yet we hold this crazy inconsistency. I'm always the same moment by moment, and I'm never the same moment by moment. And somehow I can be both. It must mean we have a little teeny bit of wisdom, or else we wouldn't be able to be both. We would go crazy. Am I the same or am I different? When we understand our no self nature, we can be the same and we can be different, and it can be like, no problem. And from chapter 9, we go to chapter 10, which is where we started in January, trying to get to chapter 10, which was the investigation of fire and firewood. Why all of a sudden are we talking about fire and firewood after he's shown us again that our me, the agent, can't have any nature because we can't establish it as existing in the moment before we do something? We couldn't establish it as having its own nature the moment it does something, and we can't establish it as having its own nature the moment before it does something. And the next chapter is, let's consider fire and firewood. So I'll leave us there so that we can think about, how does the relationship between fire and firewood help us understand the relationship between me and starting the car? They are related. So remember that person we wanted to be able to help. We're digging deeper, deeper, deeper so that we can understand their suffering better and where it comes from and how to help them, even in worldly ways, in ways that can help them come to stop their suffering forever. And that's a great, great goodness. So please be happy with yourself, happy with the effort, happy with the struggle. And think of this goodness like a beautiful glowing gemstone that you can hold in your hands. Recall your own precious holy guides. See how happy they are with you. Grow your gratitude to them, your reliance upon them. Ask them to please, please stay close, to continue to inspire you and help you. And then offer them this gemstone of goodness. See them accept it and bless it. And they carry it with them right back into your heart. See them there, feel them there. Their love, their compassion, their wisdom. It feels so good, we want to keep it forever. And so we know to share it by the power of the goodness that we've just done. May all beings complete the collection of merit and wisdom, and thus gain the two ultimate bodies that merit and wisdom make. So use those 3 long exhales to share this goodness with that one person. to share it with everyone you love, to share it with every existing being everywhere. See them all filled with happiness, filled with loving kindness, filled with the wisdom. And may it be so. Okay, thank you so much. Thank you for your participation. I always learn from you guys.
Thank you for sticking with us.
Thank you,
Yay.
Turlama. Thank you,
Okay,
everybody.
Please stay, keep teaching.
stopping.